What's up, moviegoers? Welcome to the Marchio podcast. I'm your host, Anthony. In this episode of the Marchio podcast, I'm talking about Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives. It is the sixth installment in the Friday the 13th film series, and the last one to feature Tommy Jarvis as the protagonist. Now, this movie continues the events of the fifth movie and follows the plot, which Jason Voorhees is resurrected by Tommy. Now, the reason Jason Voorhees is resurrected is because Tommy and his friend go to the cemetery plot and want to finally kill Jason. However, a metal rod is stuck into his heart by Tommy because Tommy wants to get rid of his fear of Jason after the events of the fourth and fifth movies. So, what happens? There's a big rainstorm and lightning strikes the metal rod that is in Jason, basically reviving him and resurrecting him. So once this happens, he goes back to Camp Crystal Lake for a new killing spree, and Tommy must attempt to stop him once and for all. The movie was released on August 1st, 1986, has a running time of 87 minutes, has a budget of $3 million, and it grossed $19.4 million at the box office. Now, initially, Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning, was going to set up a new trilogy of films with a different villain for the series, but after a disappointing reception from fans and a steep decline in box office numbers, and how Part 3 and the final chapter were received and how Part 5 was received, Jason Voorhees was brought back for this installment, Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. The aspect of this movie was that, since the box office numbers didn't do good, why not bring back your main star? Because that's what basically they did. They really did kill off Jason in the final chapter, and that was it. The fifth one was supposed to be a new series of killers, as I stated. But with what happened, they couldn't do that. So what did they do? Boom. They made a sixth movie and brought back the main character villain. How do you do that? Well, lightning and superhuman forced nature of Mother Nature, helping out. The interesting thing I like about this movie is that basically Jason became supernatural, and he became a supernatural being in force. He was undead. He was basically a zombie, and he became more powerful than a superhuman. He was this figure that you couldn't stop and you couldn't do anything. That's the reason I liked Part 6. Jason Voorhees is not human anymore. Not like he was in Part 2, 3, and 4. He basically just looked like that because he was in water for so long, and his face looks, had those marks on it from the water and such. But in this sixth movie, when you resurrect him, he's technically a zombie. Think about that. Jason Voorhees is a zombie in Part 6, but he's resurrected. So he's a resurrected zombie and goes on a killing spree. Which is why if you watch how several, ways you attack him in this movie, he doesn't feel any effect at all. And sometimes in this movie, certain characters and instances, they break the fourth wall where they talk to the audience. It's good and it's done. And like I said, this movie brought back the franchise in a big, big way. Because they noticed that things were happening where, okay, the box office numbers are bad. Let's bring back Jason Voorhees. And it was good. It was a smart way to do things, and it was a good way to do things. And I credit the director and writer Tom McLaughlin because he made Jason this hulking brute force of a figure, and it was done really, really well. Now, even though this, when this movie came out, the great thing about it was that it was greatly received by the fans, and critics loved it. And if you talk to fans of these, series of movies, they say that Part 6 is their favorite one because it brought back the tutorial character of Jason Voorhees. You could say that this movie has a sort of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein feel to it. And the reason I say that is because Frankenstein is, brought to life by using certain parts of different beings and people. And he's, brought to life by electricity and by the means of Victor Frankenstein, the doctor. He's a madman. He doesn't know what he wants to do. And Tommy Jarvis, you could say, is that Frankenstein. He's the doctor that resurrects Jason, the Frankenstein monster, and all of a sudden he starts killing people. So it's a great homage in a way, and that's how I see it. And Jason, has a weakness in this, and it's introduced in this movie, and that weakness is water. So you can tell that even though Jason is a zombie, he's resurrected as this supernatural, superhuman being. He has a fear of water, and he's portrayed as this lumbering killer of a monster. It's really good, and it's really done so well. And if you didn't see that aspect of what I just, described of, this being so-called a Frankenstein movie, where Jason's resurrected and Tommy Jarvis is the doctor that resurrects him again, then, what movie are you watching? It's so many great stuff and great callback to what, the old Universal monster movies was. And this is what that is. Even though this movie is considered a slasher film, it's a monster movie. Part 6, Jason Lives, is a monster movie because Jason is a monster now. You can't stop him. You don't know how to stop him. And basically, I blame Tommy Jarvis for doing that. Even though you wanted him dead, he was dead already. You didn't have to go back and try and kill his corpse or burn his corpse. Because if you left it the way it was, he would have been fine. But no, you took a metal rod from the fence that surrounds the cemetery, you stuck it in his heart during a lightning rainstorm, and lightning struck it, and that's what happened. Simple. That's it. That's what happened, And like I said, I don't feel for the characters in any Jason movie. I always root for the killer Jason in every movie. Because, he's just, he's the victim. He's not the killer. But, some might disagree with me. But the way Tom McLaughlin, the writer and director, did this movie, I would have loved to have seen him do more movies after this and maybe continue on to the entire series. Because after part 6, this, series got a little interesting, so to speak. Even though that supernatural aspect was still there, it kind of, didn't work out too well. So in a way, Tommy kind of kills Jason. So basically what happens is that the final showdown happens at Camp Crystal Lake. Tommy goes out onto a small little boat, has a boulder with a chain wrapped around it. And Tommy eventually chains Jason to a boulder that he tosses into the lake, where he leaves Jason, who is revealed to be alive at the end of the movie. There's a great shot where, all of a sudden you see Jason in the water, and all of a sudden he starts moving and his eyes open up, and that's the end of the movie. And we don't know what happens after that. So it's really good to see that they did this movie in a way where you brought back Jason, but you brought it back in a good way. The killings were great because Jason was just doing shit that no other person could do. He was crushing heads, he was squeezing them, and he did all that because he could do that. He's a resurrected superhuman, supernatural being now, a monster that you can't stop because Tommy Jarvis wanted to do things differently. Shame on Tommy Jarvis, shame on you. So let me know in the comment section below what you think about Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. Do you like it? Do you enjoy it? Do you think it's the best in this series? And do you think that bringing back Jason and making him supernatural, making him this hulking figure of a monster, was a good idea? Let me know in the comment section below about the questions I just asked. And be sure you tune into the next episode of the Marchio Podcast, where I talk about Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood. And be sure you click that subscribe button and hit that notification bell for new videos and new podcast episodes on the Marchio Productions YouTube page. And follow Marchio Productions on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And follow me, Anthony, your host, on Instagram and Twitter at misterfilmstock. And follow the Marchio Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I'll leave a link to all the social media accounts in the description box below. You can check it out and follow along. All right, everyone, that does it for today's episode. I'm your host, Anthony. Thanks for tuning in.